A lot of people have asked me, why does this code not run for me? And they say we get errors like module not found. So the reason for this is because you're missing the matplotlib library in your code. So this is something that is written by somebody else. And what you need to do is you need to bring that into your code. But in order to bring it in, so this line, this is exactly what this does. So this line, import matplotlib, brings it into your code. And you can see the line here as well. So that's where we are getting the error. So in order to resolve this, you need to install this piece of library on your computer. So at the minute, it is not installed on your computer. So that's why you're getting the module not found error. So the important difference here is this line, it makes it available to use in your code, to be used in your code, but it's actually not installed. So although you can type it, but it actually is not installed on your computer. Now, when I use the word installed, I do mean different meanings around Python environments, but that's something that I will discuss at another time. So at the minute, the important thing to understand is it's not installed on your computer. If we look at dig into the error, we can see module not found error here, and it says no module named matplotlib. So in order to resolve this issue, what you need to do is you need to run this command over here, which is pip install matplotlib. So let's break that down and understand what this line actually does. The first part here, %pip. This is a command that's used in VSCode. So you can see I'm using VSCode and I am in a Jupyter notebook. And you can see that it has a percentage in front of it. Now, you may have seen exclamation mark, but the rest of the code is pretty standard. Pip is the Python package manager. So this is something that installs the relevant software on your computer, such as the libraries and so on. So this is a library that we want to install. So then you use the keyword install and the library name. Now, this library name over here, this comes from your code. So if you have a look at your code over here, you can see matplotlib is mentioned over here. So this is what we are trying to install. So now if I click on this play button over here, so just click on that, and this will actually install it within VS Code environment that we are in. So if I run this, and you can see that it takes a few seconds, and this has now finished, and you can see it took about 8 seconds on our machine, and it's success. And you can see here the line that you need to look for is successfully installed. And you can see the matplotlib version number 3.10.7. But the important part is it's matplotlib. So that's what got installed. And now if we go to our code here, so previously we got this error, but if I run this using this button over here, if I click execute cell, and what we should find is running, there you go, is success. And we can see that we have our graph over here that's generated as expected. So I hope this helps you resolve your module not found errors. Let's discuss Python environment. So here I have the following machine learning code. It's just going to print a simple graph, but what we need to understand is how does this all function within a Python environment. So if I run this code over here, you can see that we do get a graph. Now, an important thing to understand is this graph got generated because, first of all, you have installed a library called matplotlib within your computer. And what I mean by within your computer, I mean a specific Python environment. So this import statement is the second step that actually makes that library that's installed within your environment to the code within whatever that you're working on. In this case, you can see that I am working on a Jupyter notebook and I am inside VS Code over here. So let's dig into which environment I'm in. So if we look at VS Code over here, you can see I am in a virtual environment called venvmpl. MPL stands for matplotlib. And you can see the Python version that we are using for this. In order to show you how this works is what you can do is you can click onto this and it shows you that within the folder that you're in, so within the folder where this is stored, so if I hover over here, so here you can see it's stored within C, shared, project, Python, machine learning. So within the machine learning folder, there are 2 virtual environments. What we want to do is we want to create another one to show you that this library actually needs to be installed within your Python environment. So while we're doing it, I will click on here. Then you will get this dialog box. What you need to do is select another kernel and then select Python environments over here. And then we are going to create a Python environment. So we're going to select the venv, manage virtual environments created using venv. So we'll select this option. And next, we need to select which version of Python. So in our case, we only have version 3.11 installed. So we will select that. If we had multiple versions, they would show up here. And then we can name our environment. So in this case, we will say venv matplot. So matplotlib, and we're gonna, this, you can see it says there's already a folder named that. So we're gonna call it B2, for example. So we'll just say B2. And here we can just press enter or just click here. Okay. And then we are going to skip the package installation because we want to install everything manually. And now you can see down here that it's actually creating your virtual environment for you. And that's what the virtual environment will be called. At the minute, notice here that it says venv-mpl, but shortly that will change to version 2. So here you can see another virtual environment has appeared. So venv-mpl v2 versus the first one we had, and we had a standard one that we created. So we now have 3 Python environments that we created. And you can see there's standard installation going on. It's installing the interactive Python kernel. So we will just let that finish. And now that everything has finished, you can see that it has changed the environment to version 2. Now, previously you saw that our code just worked and it produced the graph that we have over here because we had the following command that was issued. But now if I try and run this code over here, you will see that we get an error to say that the module matplotlib has not been found. So there's no module named. Now, although it's installed in the other environment, so if I change this to the other environment that we had, so you can see we've got the version 2, this is the v2, and then we've got the original one, venv-mpl, and then we've got a plain one. So if I go to the other environment, venv-mpl, not the version 2 one, and you can see, and if I run this piece of code, and you'll see the code works under my old environment. So this is what I mean by when you install the library, then it's installed in that specific environment. So in this case, it got installed within the venv-mpl rather than version 2. So we'll explore a bit more on environments next time. Previously, we talked about different Python environments. So if you click on this icon over here, you can see there are different environments for Python that we have in our folder. So we've got Python environment, which is venv-mpl. We've got previous one we created, which is venv-mpl v2. So this is the one we just created before. And then there is one that was created before that. So let's have a look at the folder structure of these environments and where they appear. So if we come over here and click on the Explorer button, so this button over here, we will be able to see our folder structure. So I have a folder called machine learning. So if you look at the file path here, you can see it's C, shared, projects, Python, machine learning. So that machine learning folder is what I have open currently. So here, what you can see is there are different environments in the machine learning folder. So I've got venv, we've got venv-mpl, and we've got venv-mpl v2. So we have 3 environments that we created, and they all get stored within this machine learning folder. And then you can see some of the other files that I have within this folder, and one of them, of course, is PyPlot, and this is a Jupyter interactive Python notebook. So here you can see that's the one I've got open. So when we clicked on this icon over here, you can see the name just printed under it. So you can see venv-mpl, and this venv-mpl refers to this environment. But we can swap to this environment over here. So if we click onto this, and you can see the other environments appear in this dropdown. So we've got Python, we've got venv-mpl v2, and we've got venv over here. And you can see that's the folder name there, and we've got venv there, and the currently selected one is venv-mpl. So we can go to version 2 over here, and you can see now when we've done that, it has changed that over here. So now we're using version 2. And as you know, in version 2, we don't have matplotlib installed. So when I run this, we should get an error as expected because we haven't installed matplotlib in that folder or that environment. So think of these environments as different folders that let you install different things within them so they do not clash. So the environments are really created to prevent clash of code. So if you install something in one environment, then it won't mess up something in your second environment like this. So as you saw with matplotlib, we installed it in this environment, but it's not available in this environment over here. So when you change Python environments in VSCode and you're using a Jupyter Lab notebook over here. So we are in VSCode. So here you can see the module is not installed. So the module is not available within our Python environment here. So this Python environment that we have, notice that we've named it as version 2. So this version 2 does not have matplotlib module installed. That's why we are getting the module not found error. So if we scroll down, it says there is no module named matplotlib. And if I switch over to the other environment, which does have it, so we have an environment which is venv-mpl. MPL stands for matplotlib library, and this one we currently are on. Notice it is version 2. If I swap over to this one, what you will notice is that's swapped over, and if you hover over the Python server icon there, you can see that it points to venv-mpl, not version 2. So if I run this code here now in this environment, you will see that it does generate the graph that we need. So how do we install this in matplotlib in the secondary environment? So what you need to do is you need to go and change your environment by clicking here. And then once you are on this screen, what you need to do is change that over to the other environment that doesn't have matplotlib. I'm going to select the version 2 over here. And once you are in this environment, you can see I am in version 2 environment. And if I run the code here, you will see that we will get this executing code in venv-mpl version 2. Now, sometimes what happens is your kernel gets stuck and it gets confused in VSCode. So as you can see here, it's restarting the kernel because I had to click restart because it just wouldn't do anything. And even after restarting, it's still trying to do it and it's just not moving. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close down VSCode, and I've just reopened VSCode. And as you can see here, we are now back in. So if I try and run this code again, what we should find is, yes, we got our module not found error because in version 2, we didn't have matplotlib installed. So notice matplotlib is installed on one of the environments, but not within the version 2 environment that we have here. So what we need to do is we need to run this magic command. Magic commands are built into the interactive Python environment. So when we run this over here, this will install it within this environment here. So what you need to do is you need to use %pip install and then library name. So if I run this command over here, I'm going to install it within this environment. So you can see this command running over here at the top, and this is spinning, and you can see how many seconds it's taking. And now you can see this has finished, and we've got a tick mark here. And if we scroll down here, we will see that it's successfully stored all the libraries that were needed for matplotlib. And you can see matplotlib here had been installed. You may see some of these other libraries being installed. These are needed by matplotlib because these are dependencies of matplotlib. So, for example, NumPy is needed because matplotlib relies on it. So if we scroll down now to our code, and if we try and run it, and as you can see here, we've got our graph printed successfully. So this is worked as expected. One of the things that you need to watch out with Python environments is you can easily corrupt them. And the reason you need to know this is the case you come across this situation by chance. So here you can see I am going to be in this v2 environment. So venv-mpl v2. I've just actually called it that. So you can call it whatever you want. So that doesn't really matter. But in here, the important thing to understand is if I run this code, you can see that it's successfully executed. Then we have a graph output as expected. But now let's see how you can corrupt this environment. So you can see I have currently executed this code. So this code is in memory now. So if I now try and uninstall matplotlib library that I have here, use this magic command in VSCode within a Jupyter notebook. So this command, it's simple. This is the magic percentage sign that you need to use. Pip uninstall matplotlib. This Y here is added into a reply yes that you do want to uninstall it. Normally in a shell or command line window, you get asked what you want to do, but in here we are forcing the yes to go through as an argument into the uninstall command. So if I run this, now notice this is where the corruption happens. I have run this cell and you can see it's got a graph, and now what will happen is it will try and uninstall matplotlib while it is still being used by my code. So my code is using it and we are trying to uninstall it. If I execute this cell, and what you'll see is you'll see that it's successfully executed here. But if we expand the output here, so you can expand the outputs by clicking on this over here. So if I click onto that, you can see that it's saying it's uninstalling, and then you get an error. So although initially when this was minimized, it appears that this was successful, but when you look at the output, you can see that we got an error, and the error says access is denied to the following. And if we scroll across, you can see access is denied to the matplotlib files. This is the reason the corruption happens, because it's trying to get access, but it can't. So what it does is it tries to delete all the files it can, and it does succeed in deleting them, but there are others where you will get permission denied or access denied messages and so on. So now if I try and run this code over here, you can see this still works, and you wonder what's going on. This is because the code is still in memory. But if I restart the kernel by clicking the restart button, and if I click yes, I want to restart, all variables will be lost. Yeah, that's fine. So if I restart this, and you can see it's restarting. So sometimes what happens is this process hangs. So what you need to do is you need to restart VSCode. So I will close it down by clicking on the X in the corner. And now you can see I've restarted and I am still in this environment. So if we try and run our code over here. So if I try and run this time, you will get an error to say module not found. And the error this time is much more in depth and very strange looking, because it's saying that it cannot find some packages to do with matplotlib. So you can see here the various errors, and the error happened in various different lines over here within the matplotlib library. So it managed to uninstall some stuff, and you can see one of the main errors is module not found matplotlib backends registry. So this error has caused corruption now, and at this point you might go, well, I will just simply install matplotlib here again. So you can see if I run this now, what you will have to get is it would say it's installing, and then it says cannot install due to OS error, access is denied. So again, there are multiple issues at play, but if I restart the kernel, and even if I restart it and then try and install it, you will still get errors here, and it's saying it's successful. But if I run the code down here, you will see that it will simply not work, because it's saying the modules are still missing and it cannot find, for example, this module. So this is the reason why corruption happens. So this is something I wanted you to be aware of, so you can solve this issue yourself. So previously we've seen that we have corrupted our environment over here. So this environment that I created when the MPLv2 had been corrupted, and the reason for this is because we have been trying to remove or uninstall a module, and this module is matplotlib, but it was used by our code and we needed to reinstall it. So what we did was we did the removal using the following command over here. So pip uninstall matplotlib with a yes flag over here to force it to uninstall, because the yes command is run within a Python Jupyter notebook inside VS Code. So you need to supply a yes command over here to remove it. So the issue was that then we realized we actually did need matplotlib and we installed it. But what we didn't do was we ran our code prior to uninstalling it. So before we uninstalled it, what we should have done is restarted the kernel over here by clicking on this button, but we didn't. So we ended up corrupting, and you can see here that module not found, and it's got all sorts of weird errors such as RC setup, API, and so on. And you can see it just goes on, and we get some weird error to say matplotlib backend registry is not a module that's being found. So how do you recover from the situation? The easiest way to recover is you switch over to another environment. So you can just click on this label here of the environment, and what you'll get is you will get a drop down to choose from, and you can see the currently selected one is the Venvi MPL version 2. But let's say we want to recover ourselves to an earlier environment, we could do that, or what we can do is we can create a new environment. So we'll click on select another kernel, and we will select Python environments over here, and then we are going to create a new environment called Venvi manage virtual environments created using Venvi. So we will do that, and then we will select 64-bit Python 3.11, and we can name our environment. So in this instance, we'll just call it recovered. So this is our recovered environment, and we are going to press enter, and then we're going to skip the installation of the packages. And this, now you can see down here, it's saying creating a virtual environment named when we recovered. And what you can see is a new environment has gone into our machine learning folder. So we've got that environment created here. What we can do is we can install our Python packages. So we'll let the interactive Python kernel to be installed. So we will wait for that. This may take a while to install, so you just need to be patient. Okay, now that that has installed, what we can do is we can install matplotlib package over here. So we'll use pip %pip. Remember, this is the magic command. So use %pip install and the module name. So if I run this, and you can see this is now running and it's executing code here. So this is downloading everything from the internet if it's not already cached. So you can see it's still trying to install over here. So this is still running, and you can see the indication over here as well. And now it's successfully installed, and we've got a green check mark here. So if we scroll down here, what we should find is it's successfully installed some packages, and you can see it's installed various packages. But one of the key ones, of course, that we are interested in is this one, matplotlib 3.10.7. So this is the latest version. And now if we run our code again, so if we clear all the outputs, try and run this code over here, and you can see that our code works and we get the desired output. So our code was successfully executed here, and we've got our graph generated. So this is how you recover from a corrupted Python virtual environment. So previously we have corrupted our Python environment. So you can see this environment, when the MPL version 2 got corrupted, and now we need to recover to another environment, which we did previously. But the issue is the main root cause of this was when we were trying to uninstall a package or a library in Python using this command. That's what caused the issue at first hand. So how do we safely remove a package from a Python environment without corrupting it? So let's change our environment to our recovered environment. So if we go to this environment, and if we run our code in this environment, what you will see is that it generates the graph successfully and there are no errors. So before you delete a package from your environment, what you need to do is you need to restart the kernel. This is important because remember, we have just executed this piece of code. And as soon as we execute it, the library files are locked or marked as in use. So when they are in use, of course, it's like any document. So if you have an Excel document, and you have it open and you try and delete it, you will get access denied error, which is what we got when we tried to uninstall a package in Python. So what we need to do is we need to release the memory and release the locks on the files. So in order to do that, before you run the uninstall command, so pip uninstall matplotlib, and then the Y is to indicate that yes, you are sure you want to delete this package. What you need to do is you need to click onto this restart button. So if I click on this, you will get a warning to say that all variables will be lost and do you want to restart. So we're going to click the restart button over here, and as you can see, it's restarting over here. And now sometimes this process gets stuck. So what you need to do is close down VSCode by clicking on the X there. So if I click on that and close it down and reopen it. So now I've reopened the environment. So I'm just going to click restart again and click yes to this option. And as you can see, it was pretty quick this time. So that's just another bug within VSCode and the Python interactive environment. So now that we have restarted, what we need to do is we shouldn't run any of this code. So you can see it hasn't been run. There's no indicator here to say it's been run. Now we can safely run this command. So this will uninstall matplotlib. So if I run this here, and as you can see, it's successful and it did it pretty quickly and uninstalling matplotlib. And now if we try and run our code over here, you will see that we get an error, which is much more simpler. It says matplotlib module not found. So no module name matplotlib. So now what we can do is we can reinstall it, and you don't have to use the restart option for this. You can simply reinstall it using this command, which is pip install matplotlib. So now if I run this, and you will see that after a few seconds, this will install it. And here, this is now done, and we go a tick mark. You can see that it successfully installed matplotlib. So now if we go down here to our code where we got the module not found error. Now, if we execute this by using the play button, and you'll see that it has generated the graph over here and we don't have any errors anymore. So I hope this makes sense. In order to remove a package safely, make sure you're not using it, none of your cells are using it, restart your kernel before you uninstall any packages, and this is the safe way of doing it without corrupting your Python environment. So next is we're going to look at, we previously corrupted a Python environment, and that environment is this one, version 2. So now ideally we can get rid of that. So if we try and go into that environment, you can see I've selected that environment over here. Now I will now click execute cell. What you will find is that it tries to connect. Now sometimes this bit fails, so what you need to do is close down VSCode and reopen it. So I will close it down. Then here I've reopened. I am now in this version 2 environment over here. So what we'll do is we will run this code over here using the execute button, and you'll see that it doesn't work. So this has got some weird errors because we tried to uninstall a package while it was in use, so it got errors. So this environment really is useless and we can't really fix it, so we need to get rid of it from on list over here. So all the environments, remember, they're stored within your folders. So if I hover over the Jupyter notebook that I have open, you can see it's stored in the C drive, shared folder, projects, Python, and then machine learning. So machine learning is the folder that we currently have open over here. And within that, you can see all the Python environments that I have set up within this folder. So now what we want to do is, this one is fine, and we want to delete this one. So in order to delete this environment over here, what we need to do is, it's very simple. You just right click on it and delete. It will say, are you sure you want to delete and its content? Yes, it is. Now in this instance, remember that our Jupyter notebook is actually here. It's not within the environment itself. So the environment is here, but our Jupyter notebook is outside it. So that's fine. We don't have any files or content that we want to keep in this environment. We have already created a recovered environment over here. So we will now click this button, move to recycle bit. And now it says that it has failed to delete it. So do you want to delete it permanently instead? So this is just a standard error message I have seen that's come up. So what we do is, this time you just need to be aware that the action is not reversible because it is going to permanently delete the folder. So we will select this button here to make sure we get rid of that. So delete. And now you can see here that the only environments that we have are this one recovered, and the version 2 one has disappeared completely. So it's still mentioned here, but what you need to do is change that to a working environment. So even if you try and run some code here now, so if I try and run it, you'll get some errors here. And even if you try and restart the kernel, then you will actually get a lot of error messages to say it cannot fail to resolve, the Python kernel failed to start, and so on. So you've got these error messages. So now what we'll do is we will go and change this to our recovered environment over here. And now that we are in that environment, if I try and run this code, you can see that it works. So in order to delete the Python environment, you just go right click on the environment and then select delete, and then follow the instructions on screen. Notice that you cannot delete the environment from any of these options over here. So this is probably the easiest method to delete a virtual environment that you no longer need. So we are inside VSCode over here, and we are in a Jupyter notebook over here. How do we go about creating a new virtual environment in VSCode? The quickest way to do this is by clicking onto this drop down here. When you click on here, you'll get a drop down menu, and what you need to do is select another kernel and then select Python environments over here. And then we are going to create a new environment. So what we're going to do is create a virtual environment using the quick create option. So it's going to use Python version 3.11.9 and install the workspace dependency. So this is the quickest way to do it. You can manually do it by using this method over here, but what we will do is we will use the quick create option, the first one, which is the recommended option. And when you do this, you will see a couple of things going on down here. So you can see it's creating the environment. It has already named the environment as Ven2. The reason for Ven2 is if we go down here, you will see that Ven1 was already there. So now you could see it's installing some packages. These packages help the system and the Python environment link in with VSCode and the Jupyter notebook. So it's installing all the relevant dependencies, so you don't have to manually do that. So you can see here, the folder has appeared under our folder that we have open in VSCode, and these are the previous environments that I had, and the new one is actually this one, V2. So this process will take a couple of minutes to install, so it's still progressing, so we will wait for that. And there you go. So after it has finished, you will see that the environment has changed to Ven2. over here. Now, of course, with this environment, it doesn't actually install everything that your code uses. So for example, if I clear all the outputs, you can see that I am using matplotlib in here. So this package, draw graphs, is not installed. So if I run this code over here, you will see that it's trying to execute it. Now this happens sometime where VSCode hangs. So what you need to do is close it down and reopen. So I have now reopened Visual Studio Code, and what we want to do is we want to execute this under this new environment. So execute this, and hopefully we should get an error message. So there you go. We got an error message to say module is not found, matplotlib, which is correct. So although the quick create option creates the environment for you to make it work with Jupyter notebooks over here and the VS Code environment, it doesn't actually install all the libraries and packages that you're using. You still need to do them manually. So here I do have the code here. So you've got the magic command here, pip install matplotlib. So when you execute this command, and you will see that it's executing, and it's going to take a couple of seconds, and you can see the progress bar up here as well. This one is moving over here. So that one is moving. And now you can see that the package has installed successfully. So it's installed all these required packages, including the matplotlib. All the other packages we didn't specify for installation, but because matplotlib needs them, it installed them for you. For example, NumPy is needed by matplotlib, so it installed them for you. So if we scroll down here now, and the error that we had, that there is no module named matplotlib, and if I try and run this now, and you notice that the graph appears and we no longer have the error messages. So that's how you create a Python virtual environment inside VS Code Jupyter Notebook. And remember that it appears in your folder structure. So I have the machine learning folder open, so it appears within there. But remember, you still need to manually install any libraries that you use using the pip install matplotlib command. And don't forget the % sign in front of the pip install, otherwise it will not work.